Hi everyone, Sarah here. So today I want to talk to you about the importance of water. So this was something that came up with a healthy eating week that we did in my Facebook group that was based on the British Nutrition Foundation's Healthy Eating Week. And it's really, water is one of those nutrients that we tend to forget about. It's not sexy, it's kind of boring, doesn't taste particularly of anything, therefore it's boring, but it's so important for our health, and particularly for women when you might be experiencing fatigue, as an example, or brain fog. Sometimes it's the water that can make the biggest difference. So instead of spending a fortune on supplements, it might just be you need to drink more. So I really want to spend today talking to you about why water is so important. So water is an essential nutrient. It's more important to life than any other nutrient. We cannot survive without water. It is what's considered essential because our body needs it more than any other nutrient, and we need to get it from outside. So our body weight consists of more than about 60% of water, and it is found everywhere in our body. It's found in our cells, it is found around our cells, it's found outside our cells, and water is constantly going in and out of our cells. And the balance of water in our bodies is a really tightly controlled system. And the balance is crucial for its function in our body. So not only do we need to take in water through our food or through our drinks, but our body makes water as well as part of the chemical and the metabolic processes that goes on in our body. Water is a byproduct. So when we urinate, it's not about just what we're drinking, it's also about the water that our body makes that we're also removing. So what is water's function other than just getting thirsty? Well, it's really important for transporting nutrients around our body, and also waste, to collect waste and to get waste out of our body. It makes up a big part of the building blocks of protein, and also glycogen, which is glucose that's stored in our muscles and our liver. It's really important for chemical reactions in our body. So we need to have water, but also, as I said, water will be a byproduct of those reactions. It's also really important for minerals and vitamins, amino acids, glucose, and other little compounds. It works as a solvent, and so that it dissolves in the water, so it can be used for these chemical reactions in our body. It acts as a lubricant in our joints, inside our eyes, our spinal cord, in pregnancy, as part of that amniotic fluid. It aids in the regulation of our body temperature, so it can be really important as we get older. And it also is required to maintain our blood volumes, because we don't want our blood volume to be too much or too little. So it's really important for lots of different functions in our body. Now, when we don't drink enough or drink enough water, then our blood can become concentrated. The mouth becomes dry, and a part of our brain called the hypothalamus tells us that we're dehydrated by making us feel thirsty. When we drink too much, then our stomach can get bigger, it distends, and the stretch receptors basically tell our brain that we need to stop drinking, which is why sipping is really important, and rather than just throwing back the water, because otherwise our brain is basically told, oh, stop drinking when we're still actually dehydrated. So sipping is really important. The heart will also tell the brain if blood volume increases, and then that will tell us that we need to stop drinking too. So thirst is our body's survival mechanism. It's to drive us to find water. But if we are thirsty, then we are already dehydrated. So how do you know if you're dehydrated? Well, if you are thirsty, if you're feeling tired, you have low energy, maybe your body feels a little bit weak, you might just feel this kind of vague discomfort anywhere in the body. Sometimes it can bring on a loss of appetite. Then you've already probably lost between 1 to 2% of water. When you start getting that dry mouth, maybe your physical performance isn't quite as good as it usually is, because you're actually quite tired. If you have a look at your urine and it starts to get darker, or maybe you're not peeing as much, maybe your skin is a bit red and flushed, you might find your mood changes. You're a lot more impatient and irritable. You might feel really apathetic and tired, and you have fatigue, real fatigue. That fatigue is getting more, then you're already 3 to 4% dehydrated. So that dry mouth and that thirst, you're already nearly 4% dehydrated. Then when you start to really struggle to concentrate, if you're getting headaches and migraines, if your irritability has kind of gone up a notch, you might be feeling really sleepy. You're starting to struggle with your temperature regulation, feeling really hot or really cold. You might find your breathing has actually increased. There's more of a shallow breath and you're breathing at a faster pace. Then you could be anywhere between 5 to 6% dehydrated. If you are dizzy, if you find that your muscles are really kind of cramping up, you're starting to get a loss of balance, really exhausted, and you could collapse, then you're 7 to 10% dehydrated. So you only need to be a little bit dehydrated for you to actually feel quite unwell. And at 10% dehydration, you will be exhausted and you could collapse and it can kill you. So it's not like 100% dehydration will kill you. Really small range, because water is so important. It doesn't take much to be dehydrated to really start impacting you physically and mentally. That's really important to know. So can you drink too much water? Well, yes, you can. Too much water can cause something called hyponatremia, which is when the cells in your body expand with rupture, and they expand with water and they explode, they rupture. It's really rare, and it's usually when there is an extreme imbalance between water and sodium, and it can kill. It really only happens with elite athletes. Doesn't happen with your normal average person. So if you are someone who is a marathon runner and an elite professional athlete, then you'll know about hyponatremia, and you know that you probably have to look at having some kind of electrolytes or special drink. You can't just drink water, you have to have other things with your water to stop that from happening. But for the vast majority of us, we generally don't drink enough water. If you find you're really, really thirsty all the time, and maybe you're drinking 3-4 liters of water, but you're still thirsty, then the first thing I would say is go to your GP and get checked, because that could possibly be something's happening with your glucose and your insulin, and that's not working properly. And also have a look at whether you need to actually have electrolytes in your water, because sometimes you can be really thirsty. There's enough water in your body, but you haven't got the electrolytes you need. Electrolytes help to get water into the cells. So you could take some electrolyte drops and have that in your water bottle and see if that makes you feel better. And if you feel that actually, then you're actually absorbing that water properly. So we know there's actually some research to show how important water is. We know it helps with physical performance and exercise, obviously with athletes, but even in general, just everyday physical performance. If you're an exerciser, then water is really important. It's really important that you are fully hydrated before you exercise, because that can make a massive difference. We know that water can actually reduce something called oxidative damage. And oxidation is a chemical reaction. You've probably heard about antioxidants. It's something that happens naturally in our body all the time, but because of the life we live and what's around us, it may be the types of food we eat, maybe the smoking and the drinking and the stress, that can increase oxidative damage, particularly if you're not eating lots of plants. And this can create inflammation, and oxidative damage is actually one of the drivers of most, if not all, chronic diseases. So water can actually reduce that, and there's research to show that. It also helps increase energy. So if you are feeling tired and fatigued, it would be the first thing I would look at and trying to improve. It's also been shown to improve mood. So as I've just talked about, when you're dehydrated, even at small amounts, it can make you moody, it can make you sleepy, it can make you irritable. So it can make you feel flat. So if you are feeling kind of lethargic and flat and maybe a bit miserable and a bit sad, try again. Try having some water. Look at how much water you're having, because again, it can be the first thing that you take that's a lot cheaper than supplements that can really make a difference to lifting your energy and your mood. We know that there's some studies that have showed that particularly the younger and the older you are, the greater your risk of dehydration. And so if you're elderly, or if you have elderly relatives, or you have kids in your family, it's really, really important that they drink enough water, because they are much more at risk of having problems with their thinking, with their memory and their mood. And as I said, 1 to 3%, that can impair your energy levels, your mood and your memory. There's a little bit of study to show that hydration can prevent headaches and migraines. We know that dehydration can cause headaches. There's not a huge amount of research, but there is some. So again, water is really important to prevent it. Whether it can actually treat, it's probably a little bit too late, but we know that hydration is really important to prevent headaches and migraines, because that can be a symptom of dehydration. Water can actually prevent and treat constipation. And there's been a few studies that show that mineralized water in particular can be beneficial for treating constipation. It might help to decrease the formation of kidney stones. There is very little good research to prove this. It is recommended because we know that water can dilute the minerals that crystallize, that cause the stones in the first place. I've had kidney stones. They are the most painful. They were up there with giving birth, like contractions, so painful. And for me, I know that I don't always drink enough water. I do tend to forget. And that was a real wake-up call, that was probably because I was dehydrated, and it made me want to drink more water, because I never want to have kidney stones again. So if that's going to help me to prevent that happening, then I will do that. And that was about 10 years ago. So I do think it's made a big difference. Now, there are different types of water. You obviously have tap water. So tap water tends to contain fluoride and chloride. It may affect thyroid function, so it can be a problem in hypothyroidism, because fluoride and chloride actually block iodine getting into the thyroid. So just be aware of that. It's always really good to have some kind of filtration system that can actually take that out, if that's what you want. Mineral water. So mineral water is basically water that has added minerals. Sometimes you can get mineral water that the minerals are just naturally there, at about 250 to 500 parts per million of minerals. Sometimes you can buy mineral water where they've added minerals. Soft water, sometimes there are regions that have soft water and hard water. So soft water is water that contains high amounts of sodium. It's a bit like salt, and potassium. So that could be a problem if you had high blood pressure. Hard water tends to contain higher amounts of magnesium and calcium. Purified water is really water that's been treated either by distillation or another process that removes all those dissolved solids or minerals. Carbonated water has carbon dioxide added to it to make it fizzy, which makes carbonic acid, which is a very weak acid. Filtered water is basically using a carbon filter. There's also something called reverse osmosis, which is when water is forced through a membrane, and that helps to remove things like lead and arsenic and microorganisms. Bottled plastic water. So a lot of plastic contains BPA, bisphenol A, or other plasticizers, which leaches chemicals into the water. So BPA in particular, we know it mimics estrogen, and you'll see things that have BPA free on, but there are also lots of other bisphenols. So there's, I can't remember, F and S, and a lot of these other, what they call plasticizers, help to make the plastic a little bit soft. Even if it's BPA free, they may very well have used a different type of bisphenol, which is exactly the same. It's still an estrogen mimic, and there's research on different types of bisphenol to show that they can be just as bad. So if you can, use glass is the best form of bottle, or aluminium. There isn't there's probably, but we know that glass is probably the safest. And then there's alkaline water. Sometimes you might have heard of ionized, which is just another name for alkaline water. So alkaline water is really is a mineralized water. It's the pH is raised slightly. It's usually around water is usually around 6.5 to 7.5. So alkaline water can be anywhere between 7.5 and up 9.5 on the pH scale, 9.5 on the pH scale. And it's usually through adding minerals to it, which are alkaline. Drinking alkaline water, it might affect the pH of your urine. There isn't a huge amount of evidence to show that it can affect your blood or tissues. There's some research coming out. And there's a little bit of research on health benefits, but not much. But watch this space, because it is something it's kind of trendy, but there is some research being done on whether it actually does what it says it does. But it's basically just highly mineralized water, which makes it alkaline. Now, you will get water from your food. About a fifth of the water that we take in comes from food. So milk, strawberries, watermelon, lettuce, cucumber, celery, spinach, broccoli, they can contain anywhere between 90 to 99% water. So it's really important to get those into your diet. Grapes, apples, yogurt, carrots, citrus, they contain about 80 to 89% water. Prawns, believe it or not, bananas, corn, even potatoes, avocados, and soft cheeses like cottage cheese and ricotta, they can contain anywhere between 70 to 79% water. And then you have things like your legumes and your lentils and your beans, salmon, and some chicken. Actually, chicken can contain anywhere between 60 to 69% water. So you'll get water from food, about a fifth. Now, in regards to how much should we be drinking, there isn't an absolute recommendation because everyone's different. So that the amount of water that you need is dependent on the type of foods you eat. Because obviously, if you're eating lots of dry packaged, ultra processed food, the chances are you're not going to be getting that much water from your diet. If you eat food with some of the foods that I just talked about, then obviously you're going to get more. How humid the climate is will mean you'll probably sweat more and therefore you need more water. The climate in general and how active you are will all make will all influence how much water you need, because it's also about how much water you're losing. So there's a balance between what you lose and what you need. The average recommended intake for a woman is about 2.8 litres a day, and food is included in that average. So, always have a glass of water when you wake, because you're going to be dehydrated from your overnight fast. So that's the first thing that would be really important. If you drink coffee or alcohol or any kind of caffeinated drink, then I would say drink 1 glass of water per cup of coffee or unit of alcohol, because that will dehydrate you. And the best way to know if you're hydrated and whether you need to be drinking more would be to look at the colour of your wee. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. Now, do we need 8 glasses of water? 8 glasses came from a USA recommendation back in 1945. So basically, 2.5 litres was recommended, but it ignored the fact that 2.5 litres could also come from food. So it was a nutritionist who thought, well, 8 glasses roughly can lead to 2.5 litres a day. So it wasn't based on science really. It was just based on 8 glasses of this nutritionist added up to about 2.5 litres. But it wasn't necessarily taken into account what you get from food if you eat a plant-based type diet. So really it's about looking at your urine will tell you if you're drinking enough. So at the moment, 1 milligram of caffeine will create a loss of about 11 millilitres of water. So the more coffee you drink in a day, the more water you will need to drink. So if you drink about 80 milligrams of caffeine in 250 millilitres of water, you will actually be drinking more water than is lost. So you're kind of drinking water when you drink coffee, but it is worth knowing that you will lose a little bit too. Alcohol is a diuretic, which means it makes us wee. So for every glass of alcohol, you should at least be drinking 1 glass of water to make up for the extra wee. So as I said, there's no absolute recommendation because everyone's different. So this is when looking at your wee is really important. So I'm going to put a link to a urine chart. And it's a really good idea. Put it up in the wall in your toilet and use that to determine if you're drinking enough. Now, if it's kind of straw coloured, then you're good to go. If it's dark, then you need to drink more water. So have a look, put the chart up in your toilet, get your whole family looking, and then you'll know, are you drinking enough water? Are you eating enough water-rich foods? And then think, what could I do today? One thing that I could do today that would improve my water intake. So we know water is the best overall choice because it hydrates, it has no calories or sugar, so it won't damage your teeth. And we also know that if we eat the right types of food, then about a fifth will come from that food. There are other drinks that you could drink too. So we know milk contains essential nutrients such as protein, B vitamins, calcium, iodine, and a lot of milk is water. Research also suggests that the production of these plant-based milk alternatives, such as your oat, your soy, and your almond, also contain lots of water and may be kinder to the planet than cow's milk. So if you choose these, or if you know that you have an issue with dairy, then just make sure they're unsweetened. Try and get the ones that are fortified with calcium as well, so you're getting some of those nutrients that you would ordinarily get if you were having milk. So fruit juice, vegetable juice smoothies, they contain water, they provide some vitamins and minerals, but they do contain sugars, even if they're natural sugars, and therefore calories. Some, particularly the fruit, can be acidic, and so if you're having that a lot, that can harm your teeth. So it's best to have your fruit and veggie juices with a meal, and only have a small glass. So even a smoothie, you shouldn't be having a massive big thing of smoothie. It should really be like 150 to 200 mils a day of your veggie juice or fruit juice or smoothie, because it is still going to be sugar. Even if it's a natural sugar, you don't want to have, it's healthy, but you don't want to have a lot. You haven't got the fiber to kind of slow down the quick peak of glucose you're going to get in your blood. So small is best. And, you know, if you had your fruit or veggie juice or a smoothie, then that is going to, that is included in your 5 a day. Now, tea and coffee, as I said with the coffee, now it does include, for some coffee, you're having 250 mils of water. So it is included in the amount of water you have during your day. And tea and coffee is fine as part of a balanced diet if you know you don't have any problems with caffeine. So obviously be careful, because adding sugar can add calories and that can harm teeth. So as much as possible, try not to add sugar to your tea and coffee. And the caffeine in tea and coffee can make us produce more urine. So just be careful. You know, having 1 or 2 a day will be fine, but if you can always have a glass with your tea and coffee, a glass of water with your tea and coffee, that will balance it out too. Fizzy drinks, squashes, you know, those energy drinks, they are really treats. They're like liquid lollies. They contain a lot of sugar. They usually provide very few nutrients. So limit these. Try and swap them for other things if you can that are more healthy. They're treat foods. These aren't everyday drinks, so you don't want to be relying on your fizzy drinks and your squashes and juices and your energy drinks to get your water. You really want to be looking at other things. Some of these energy drinks are also high in levels of caffeine or other stimulants, and they're generally not suitable for children. So if they're not suitable for children, think about whether you should be having them too. So the general tips are: drink water when you wake up. You are going to be dehydrated when you wake up, particularly if you've been peeing during the night. It's a fast, so drink water awaking. Have at least 1 glass of water when you wake up, if not 2. Start small, and then until you get used to it, wake up. Sometimes you might find you feel a little bit nauseous, and the thought of water you really don't fancy. But I've found for myself, if I just start drinking it, once I've started drinking it, I actually feel better. It's more the thought of drinking it that makes me feel a bit icky, but drinking it doesn't. So it's about, you don't want to scull the whole thing. You want to sip. So having a glass of water when you wake and sip, have that alongside your tea and coffee if that's the first thing that you drink, but try and have a glass of water at some point before you start your day. You can add a slice of lemon to it. I don't particularly love squeezing a lot of lemon in, because if you're having that squeezed lemon water every day or a couple of times a day, unless you're eating at the same time, it can actually damage your enamel. So it's better just to have a slice of lemon if you want a little bit of flavor. If you're drinking any kind of caffeinated drink or alcohol, then have 1 glass of water per cup of coffee or tea or unit of alcohol. Fill up 2 bottles of water, 750 to a litre type bottle. Make sure they're pretty. You want to look at those bottles of water and want to drink from them. So the more attractive they are, the more likely you're going to want to drink from them. And have a goal to try and drink both of them by the time you go to bed. You can also, if you're at home, get a jug of water with 2 litres and fill up the jug of water and make that jug look pretty. Add things to it to make, infuse the water with fruit and herbs. And have that as a goal to drink the whole jug by the end of the day. Herbal teas are a really lovely way, as a lot of them are decaffeinated. and you'll get the benefits of the herbs, and a lot of them taste really nice. So have a play with herbal teas and drink those through the day. Some herbal teas can make you feel a bit more energetic, so you don't need the coffee to give you the coffee hit. Some herbal teas can help just manage stress. Some herbal teas can help you relax. Some herbal teas can help you focus if you've got to focus and concentrate. Some herbal teas can help you sleep. So have a play with herbal teas. Broths and soups are also a really good way of getting nice tasting fluids into your diet as well. And remember, you might need more water if you exercise lots. You don't want to be dehydrated when you go to the gym or go for a run. If you are hot, if for those of you that get hot flushes or have night sweats, then sip some ice cold water. Have your ice cold water be on your bedside cabinet, and when you wake up and you're hot and sweaty, have a sip. If you're having a hot flush during the day, have some ice cold water and sip, and that can help to regulate your temperature. And remember, if you are thirsty, you are already dehydrated. So try and get in the habit of sipping water throughout the day, and not just waiting until you start getting that dry mouth and feeling like you're thirsty. You can use, there's heaps of different water apps out there that you can use. But I find that actually putting an alarm on my phone, if I know that I work in an hour and a half blocks, then I can put an alarm on my phone and that goes off to remind me I need to drink some water. I find that that's actually easier than some of the apps. So find what works for you and have a play. And if you're like me, where you're so busy, you're focusing on everything else, you forget to drink, get an alarm to be a reminder, this is the time to sip. And do that every hour and a half. And use that chart. So stick the urine chart up in your work bathroom or your bathroom at home, and get everyone looking. Start checking your wee and see where does it match on the chart. And am I drinking enough? Am I good? Or do I need to add some more water into my daily diet? I hope that's useful. I love your feedback. If you've got any tips, if there are any apps, if you've got any infused water recipes, please share. Come and join my group, Women's Wellbeing Circle, and come and share your recipes and your tips and your insights too. Let me know how you get on with that urine chart, whether you're using it and what you found out. See if you can change the culture in your workplace using that urine chart. And I look forward to hearing from you, and I look forward to seeing you at the next chat that we have. So take care. Hope you found this useful. Have a fantastic week.